Hi, my name is Courtney. I was born and raised in Corpus Christi, Texas. I grew up most of my life in Kansas. Grew up in the church. We moved to Virginia in 1996, basically up until I was about 7 or 8. My mom was just an alcoholic. She was addicted to pills, addicted to anything she could get her hands onto. My mom started having affairs on my dad. My mom would take me over to her boyfriend's houses and would use me as an excuse to not stay the night if things weren't working out for them or if things just got too uncomfortable. I got exposed to a lot of drugs at a very young age. She also would have me lie to my dad and lie to everybody else, so I got exposed to basically lying about everything to make up for the life and the family I didn't have. On a Thanksgiving, she was up in the bathroom and she told my little brother to go get me, and I came upstairs and she told me, she was like, "I just want to let you know that I love you," as she picked up my grandpa's hunting knife and continued to just thrust it in her hand and just pull it through her hand, and it was just like the most shocking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. We rushed her to the hospital as I was screaming. The cops were asking me what had happened, and I looked over their shoulder, and there's my mom sitting there with this just mean look on her face, just saying that you better lie, you better lie. So I told them that she was, doing Thanksgiving dinner. The knife slipped through her hand, and that's what happened. It continued to where she would go steal clothes. She'd put the clothes on me and have me walk out, and then got to the point to where it was like a cop scene. 5 cop cars, there was a helicopter, and there was an ambulance. And they took this bar, and she wouldn't open the door, so they continued to smash every window in her car, and they dragged her out of the car. And I ran over to her, and she just had blood everywhere. And they sat there, and they just manhandled her, and I guess that's when it kind of opened my eyes that, yeah, something's wrong. I was 8, around 7 or 8. My mom would come home just completely out of her mind. So I would go in there, I'd line up her prescription bottles for all of her narcotics that she was addicted to and that she was taking at the time. And she was screaming and she would just be crying, and I would just put her in the bathtub and I'd bathe her, and I would sit there and I would be telling her, if you're a good girl and you listen, I'll give you your medicine. So then my 13th birthday, I was so stoked. I went to bed and everything was just gonna be so perfect. I was finally 13, finally a teenager. And I remember waking up because my sister and my brother were in my room, and they kept whispering and they kept telling them, each other to be quiet. And I wake up and I'm like, what's going on? Thinking that it was a surprise. And I wake up and I look outside and my mom is hanging on the basketball court in front of our house. And so, that just completely destroyed me. Just to see that and to relive that. Then my dad, he went out there and he brought her down. She came inside, she took his belt, and she continued to try to do it in her room. And just to hear my mom screaming was just like the worst sound in the world. And it just rings through my ears till this day. And I remember just sitting there in the corner, and I seriously prayed that the Lord would just take me. So I kept thinking it would get better, but it got worse. Every holiday, every birthday, everything we spent in mental institutions and rehabs visiting her. It basically got to the point to where my dad and her split, and I lived with my mom. I started smoking, I started drinking, I started doing the works when I was probably 12 or 13 years old. So then me and my mom started smoking together, and I was 17 years old. I got diagnosed with cervical cancer. So my dad, started praying for me, and I was just like, prayer, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want anything to do with it because of everything that had happened in my life. He prayed for me, and my body got rid of it. But to hear my mom tell me that she wished I would have died from it just really broke my heart. I was really dark, heavy stuff, and it was just expressing how I just didn't believe anymore, and it just really broke me down because it just talked about how I would pray every night that I just wanted to die, about how my mom just didn't even care, and that I would just be so much better off just dying. And it's one of those just emo depression things. I never acted out on any of it but I was just reading those journals and it just said that I wish that I would have, I wish that I would have finally have just put myself to sleep. I wanted to die. I wanted out of here. I couldn't deal with it anymore. That's why I try to avoid being emotional, because I don't want to deal with it. I just want my mom back, and I'll never have her. So then the drug addiction picked up full speed. It got so bad that my mom called the cops on me a couple times and tried to get me caught with a bunch of drugs. And of course I denied it all, and that still wasn't a wake-up call for me. And I was at church on a Sunday. My coke addiction was just completely off the wall. I did it before I went to church. I did it in the car. And I just had that feeling like I had to do it again. And I went into the bathroom at church and I broke out a line, and I sat there and I snorted the line off the back of the bathroom stall at church. I finally prayed that I would just be released from it, and God finally gave me what I wanted. Me and my dad were living in the house with my mom. And it was a winter night, and my mom decided that she just wanted us out of the house. So she went into her room and she put bruises on herself. And she called the cops, got a warrant for our arrest. And that night, me and my dad were drug out in handcuffs. And that was probably the scariest feeling in the world, just me being this little girl in a jail cell. I'm just freaked out to death. But one day, I couldn't even go back home. I had a restraining order against me. I couldn't get nothing. Finally, I called up Crystal and I was like, look, I just got out of jail. I've been sleeping in my car. I need a place to stay. So Crystal was living with her mom at the House of Mercy, and her mom was like, come on over. I figured it would be, a couple week fix and I'd get my stuff back together and go back home. But got to the point to where I was there for probably 6, 7, 8 months. Just living at Miss D's house just completely opened up my eyes. It taught me how to be a Christian woman. It taught me how to be a woman of God. Miss D definitely showed me that motherly love that I was lacking my whole entire life. And even though it was for like 8 months, it definitely was just the best experience ever, because she's a mom and it definitely shows that. And it's what I've been missing. I try to fill it in with all these drugs and everything else, but the love that she gave me, I can't even describe it. Me and Crystal were best friends. Started dancing at the Rock on the hip hop team. I've been drug-free for about 1.5 years now. I'm about to finish up nursing school in about 1 year, so I'll be a nurse. I'll be able to take care of people and help people and actually see them coming along from where they were to where they are now. And I was doing bus ministry on Saturdays, and I plan on picking that back up once I get done with school. But I continue to dance here with Rock Nation, and hopefully one day I'll get my mom back. That's it.
Imagine staying in this moment, staying in this moment forever. It's true.